I will start the session. Let me share my screen. Yeah, let me give you a summary of what we have done in Bdd Framework. See, we started with adding the libraries in Bdd Framework. So first we understood what is Bdd. Bdd is basically a development process. So in that we are trying to prepare the automation regression in the development process of Bdd. Whereas in Bdd concept, the requirement will be gathered in a particular format, which is called scenario. Every scenario will be combined with the given, when, then. Once that is done, that will be used by requirement will be gathered in that. While gathering the entire requirement, the whole team, whoever is going to work on that particular project, the entire team will be involved in gathering the requirement. Now, once that is done, yeah, sorry. So first, the requirement will be gathered in a particular format, structured scenarios, and that requirement will be served to the developer for working on the development process. Meanwhile, the testing team will be using the same scenario, enhance the scenario for doing the testing purpose. Whatever is gathered initially, with that only testing is going to carry forward. And while gathering the requirement itself, almost everyone in the team will be involved in that. So that's an actual development process. Implementing this process in real time and constructing a complete product, it's going to be a time consumption, and it's also quite difficult when the application is quite complex. When most of the people in the team is not aware of the application, it's quite difficult to prepare the requirement itself. So what we do is we'll modify the BDD concept in most of the real time. You will be able to see ATDD. ATDD is what ATDD, test driven development, for writing the test case. So what we do is we'll inject the scenarios, writing the whatever the requirement is there, it will be in a different format. That requirement will understand the testing team, and the business team will also be involved in that. And the testing team, mostly QA team, will be involved in that and convert those requirement into an acceptance testing. Concentrating the end user will write to the test case that is given, when, then we will try to write. So that will be used for automation regression, that will be used for manual testing, that will be used by the client to understand the application also. So the entire thing will be maintained with the documentation. Once the test document is prepared, basically the scenario is prepared for acceptance testing, we use that for automation purpose. That's what we have done. First we prepare the, let me open the document. Yeah, first we prepare the detail. So detail for the writing the scenarios, we put that scenario, we connected with the step definition for automation purpose. step definition is something which will get executed, the Selenium code, or if you're writing a scenario for Windows automation, or it is a mobile automation, whatever it is, respective code gets connected in the step definition. And this scenario, what I have written in the feature file, that is going to be same even in the universally, it's a common file. That file will be connected with Java, C# based on the concept what we use. In Java, we use Cucumber. In Java, if you see, we use Cucumber for working with the BDD concept. In C#, we use Specflow to work in the BDD concept. So in Java, we created a Maven project. We added the jar related to Cucumber, Selenium, WebDriver Manager, since we are working with Selenium. And then we created a feature file. Then we created in the feature file, we created a header description, and a feature header, feature description, and then scenarios what we create. That scenario we connected with the step definition and created a runner file to to connect the feature file and step definition. Then we started writing the automation regression. Then we separated with page object model. In the step definitions we added into proper page object model. Everywhere we done with static. Okay, as I told you, with static you can easily understand, but in real time when you want to extend it, when you want to give support for multiple environment or parallel running, if you want to construct, it's quite difficult when you go with static, because only one copy can be maintained in memory. Multiple copies if you want to maintain for one particular class or template, it's quite difficult with static. It's not possible, so we go for non-static. So nowadays we have some additional concepts which you need to learn. Okay, so that I'll tell you. That's really an advanced one, which if it is new, most of the things is not covered in a session. Basically, mostly it will be done through static. If you see here, for understanding purpose, we do through static. Okay, if you see here, all the step definition feature file will be connecting to step definition. The step definition will be connecting to the page objects concept. Page object concept is this, but instead of connecting with static, we connect with non-static. That is what I'm going to discuss. For that, we need additional dependencies. But when you see high-level framework, you will have at that level. So if you are constructing, then you can always go with this advanced level of constructing with non-static. We'll be doing it today once we complete this. When it comes to BDD, these are the concepts: parameterization, scenario outline to reduce the duplicate in feature file, step parameterization, basically creating a parameter for running it multiple times. Then I explained you about how to include a particular tag and run, how to include a tag. Background, when you have repeated given, you can go for background. Okay, then we have seen something called a data table. So four important concepts is there. These are all four important concepts. With this only you have to contribute to the ATDD framework or BDD framework which we are constructing. So till this, any doubts, whatever you constructed till now in a BDD?
No.
Yeah. So in the previous framework, if you see, it's completely a technical one. Only the automation engineer can understand the script. Only the automation engineer can modify something. And documentation, whether you are writing the test case properly or not, that also only technical person can evaluate it. Okay. Whereas non-technical people will not have much contribution for this test methods in the framework which we have designed in using test engine. Now, when it comes to BDD, everyone will be like contributing to the project, because the start point is going to be a non-technical part, the documentation. Okay, this is called living documentation. If anyone modified anything over here, immediately our code will throw it asking to create a step definition for it. Once it is created, before changing it, you have to get an approval from the team properly. Basically, there will be a person, Scrum Master. They only give you an approval, then only you will be starting. Okay. So unwanted modification here and there, you should not do once it is completely done after inserting in the automation script. So feature file, it starts with feature file, then it goes to the step definition. Step definition will connect to the page objects and do the operation. Page objects is our implementation in Cucumber project for maintenance purpose for reusing the Selenium code. So, and then we created a hooks basically, and the base class I created where I'm going to set up the driver separately. And there is a hooks like before, after is there, which will run before the scenario, after the scenario. So I want to close the browser always. For doing that, the propose if my scenario is failed, it will not go for then suppose if it is failed in when part, that's it. That scenario will be marked as fail. It will not go to then part always, or if it is a failure. So in that case also we need to close the browser. So to do that, for that we can add the hooks at the rate after and close the browser. So till this it's clear for you.
Yes.
Yeah. So then what I explained you is data table. Let me complete the data table today. So if you see here in patient steps scenario I created, this is the scenario. So in this scenario, these steps are already there. See, the steps will be taken from any class which you mentioned in the runner file. In the runner file, you might have mentioned something called glue. In glue, you will be giving the package name. In this package, there could be a lots of classes. The step definition can be in any class. If you have a duplicate step definition for example, given, I'll take copy the given and I'll keep the WebDriver wrapper. And then if I try to let me do a run over here, let me do dry run or run, it will try to validate everything. Now, if it is properly connected with step definition, it will be passed. Otherwise, it will be failure. Right now, you see, it's basically telling you it's failure. And if I expand it and check it, you will come to know duplicate scenario. You can see duplicate step definition in for login step. Login step is also having WebDriver wrapper is also having it. Will be checking in any package, whatever the package you mention it here. Suppose if I don't mention this package, then it will take it from this step definition. So remember that you should not give the duplicate detail, which is also not required here. Okay, let's complete this. I asked you to work on this variable to complete this patient, adding a patient.
No, not done.
Okay, let me complete it. See, for this is an assignment which I gave you a few days back, the same assignment only. So I already prepared the feature for it. So I want to add a patient and then I want to check whether the patient is passed or failed. Okay, whether it is getting added or not. So for that, I created a feature file. While creating a feature file, I have to fill the form where I have to fill first name, last name, gender, DOB. Lots of detail is there in the form. So 4 details I gave. So what I did over here is I created a table here. For one step, we will be sending a tabular data that comes over here. Okay, as a data table. Now we should know how to read the data table. So data table, we have to convert into list of hash map. You can see here the return type will be list of maps, which means each index point will have key value per. Each index point will have key value per. For example, 0th index will have key value per of first row. 0th index will have key value per of first row. First index will have key value per of second row. Since we have only one row, so no issues. So there will be in the 0th index. So first, if I go to 0th index, I can use the key, access the value. So the key will be header. By default, it will construct in that way. Key will be header. So we are just taking the header and like giving the header detail. So it gives you the value. That value I'm trying to print it. Then I'm switching into the frame because that element and all comes into the frame. Enter the first name, last name I did. Let me try to enter. First name is nothing but sorry. First name is nothing but list dot top 0 first name, then last name in the OB. Today we'll complete this framework. first name, last name, a DOB is done. Now gender is there. Gender basically it's a drop down. For drop down, what I'll use, I'll create select object. Select as object. Let me input the details. Select in object detail I need to pass. Let me first web element is something which I need to pass. Let me inspect it. If you see this element is already inside the frame, I ask you to check with using the selector hub. Okay, otherwise the way which I explained you, same way you can check. Let me use selector hub. So it says it is inside the a frame, a PAT. There's a frame called PAT. So I copy that XPath. Then I start using this XPath. You can see here, private dot find element by dot that XPath, getting into that frame, then doing the operation. Now I want to select the drop down. Drop down is having CSS selector, or I can use XPath, anything is fine. So I need to pass the web element selectors, which we have discussed about this constructor. So web as web driver wrapper dot driver. So coming from that static variable dot find element by dot CSS selector. I can use anything. I can cover this. We discussed something about CSS selector, right?
Yes.
Yeah, let me. Yeah. The basic CSS selector which we cover. Do we cover JavaScript?
No.
No, not yet. Which we'll complete that tomorrow. So JavaScript will be one of the useful thing for doing the automation nowadays because of some dynamic pages. We covered CSS selector, find element, headless mode. So these are the things I need JavaScript. Tomorrow, first half will finish those automation things. Let me come to this. BDD will finish it today. So coming to this BDD, for gender, I need to create an object which is done, and I can use that variable name dot select by visible text. The text I will get it from the feature file. From the feature file, it will be like key value per. Key will be DOB, value will be this. That key value per will be in the list. Okay, first I need to get that list detail. So list dot get of 0. I need to go to 0. Here get of 0 will have an hash map. In that hash map, there will be key value per. I'm going to give the key get of key. The key is going to be header. If I give key is nothing but the header. That's how it will get converted. Enter. If I give the key, it will give you the value. Using that, I'm trying to set the text. Okay, the form is done. So I fill the form, like first name I provided, last name I provided, mandatory field, gender I provided, date also I'm going to give it as 15. Now, let me. So after I click on this, like I need to click on this create new patient. Let me click on this, inspect it, and you can see that is also inside the same frame PAT. So already we are into the frame. Let me use the ID and click on it. So here have to go to the patient step. Let me close others file. I selected the gender, then I'm planning to click on that. So web driver wrapper dot driver dot switch to dot frame. That frame name also you can, already we are into that frame. So I'll just that element, find element by dot id. If you see last class, we continued this. So I'm just continuing from that. We have stopped at this point, like where I get into the frame and did the operation, PAT frame. So if you see here, this particular feature file, after I click on new search, this detail comes inside the frame. This detail comes inside one frame. So if you see here, I get into the frame. Our way of writing the technical code. So I get into the frame. After getting to the frame, I fill the form. Then after clicking on the confirm create new patient, which means this one, I have to click on this confirm create new patient. After clicking on create new patient, I have to confirm it. That detail comes under a different frame. You see here, the frame detail right now, it is the frame detail is something
Yes.
like model frame ID. And name, you see some alphanumeric text, so you can avoid it. You can avoid the name and you can use ID. Suppose if ID is not there, one of the easiest way to handle the framers, you can see SRC. That will be some HTML detail. So what you can do, some name will be like a new underscore search pop-up is there, right? So some part of the URL, for example, / iframe. Okay, and then contains the rate SRC. And it is something like with pop. I'll just give pop. You can see this frame. You can easily identify. These are the different ways to handle the frame. So we have to get into the frame and do the operation. That's it. So any ID is there. So let me copy the ID. Three ways are there. Either you can say get into the frame by doing the operation like ID or name as a string, or index you can give, or XPath you can give. As of now, I'll go with the index like XPath itself. Now I have to click on this detail that comes under a different frame. If you see, already we are into one frame, the PAT frame. So I need to come out of the frame. So once I click on it, I'll write a code here. WebDriver wrapper dot driver dot switch to dot default content. So default content, if I do, it will go to the main HTML. Now from this main HTML, I'm trying to get into the one more frame. So WebDriver wrapper dot driver dot switch to dot frame. And you can see three options will be there. The overload concept. Either I index you can give, name or ID, you can give it as a string also. That will also work. There's an ID, I can give it as a string. Name or ID, I can just simply give it as a string. You can see ID. Name or ID, you can give it. Name or ID, I can give it as a string, or you can use find element or XPath you can do. Get into the frame. After getting into the frame, I need to click on this. So this is the XPath it gives. Let me copy it. Value equal to confirm create new XPath. So let me click on this. just get into the frame. Then I need to click on that confirm create new application. So that has actually expert. So let's use the expert and click on it. This is the expert to click on it. Okay. First, anyhow, try to prepare the automation regression. Then you get into if it is a bit confused. So different frame will be there. So first we should be able to automate. I get into the frame, click on confirm. Once I click on confirm, you can see it gives you a like alert box. Okay, pop-up is there and alert box is also there. Both the option is coming. If I fill today's day, then birthday comes. Otherwise, birthday doesn't come. And this pop-up comes always. I have to handle the alert. If you see here, the feature file, I have two. One is alert box should contain this text assessment colon tobacco. And one more then is there added patient name should be available. So these two are important thing. Now, but alert box come in between the steps. You see here after clicking on confirm create new patient, alert box come. And since it is a alert box, so what I can do is I can make sure I'll come out of the frame. I'll come to the main frame because once the alert is done, should after that it could be it may not be in the same frame. So I'll just come out. Now I'll click on the OK button. Before clicking on OK, if you see here, I'll just put the alert string actual alert text equal to get the alert text. It will be driver wrapper dot driver dot switch to dot alert dot text. That will give you the text. I'll click on OK. So web driver validation. I'll tell you. It will alert. In after clicking on OK, you can see there is a close button. I'll do. So there is a class or database model is there. Let me write some expert. It was also giving you the expert. Let's make sure it's pointing to one element here, no frame. So directly I can click. Already I come out of the frame. I'm not into any of these frame. I need to click on the close pop-up. Now, this pop-up comes sometimes when you fill today's date. Otherwise, it will not come. So this HTML will be there sometimes. Sometimes it will not be there. So during that time, what you need to do is you can use this particular scenario. Something called. We'll discuss more on this next class. Driver dot find elements. Web driver wrapper dot driver dot find elements. Second one. Under find elements, I can do by dot expert. I'll just give this expert. Now here dot size is greater than 0. So this will never throw error. Find elements will not throw error. Okay. And it will give you a collection of web element. You can see list of web element, list of string we have seen, list of integer I've shown, list of web element. Each index point contains web element. Web element means you can do click, you can do type, clear password, you can pass it as an argument. It's a web element. Drive dot find element, right? It's exactly similar to drive dot find element, each and every index. So if you want to go for a 0th index, you can easily get into 0th index and do the operation right now. But my duty is to make sure with this XPath, how many element available. So if the XPath is greater than 0, it means it's available. At that time, I need to click on this. A simple logic, checking and clicking on it. That's it. Find element. Dot. This is basically checking the presence of element.
Balaji, that
Hmm.
frame, that pop-up is a different frame or same frame?
It's not in frame actually. So I just here, it now shows any frame. So already I click confirm create new patient, then I come out of frame, which means I'm in the main HTML right now. I'm actually with main HTML. And this pop-up when I inspect, it's not inside the frame. You can see here, no frame detail.
Okay.
So it's in a main HTML. So I clicked on confirm create new patient, then come out of the frame. Basically, I'm moving to main HTML. Then handling the alert. Alert will be switching to alert and do the operation. Now I'm not into the frame actually, so I'm just checking in the main page. Okay. If it is inside the frame, it will throw error. At that time, we'll check on that, come out and check the frame detail. So right now I have a option for validation. One is alert text I should be getting, expect alert. This is one thing, and this is nothing but expect name. So once it is added. Now alert text I need to validate, but alert text is here, a local variable. How can we access it? For example, I need to give something like this, assert.assert. I need to just check for two. Basically, if you see, I'm not going to check for complete. I'm going to check for some part of a text. So I can do assert to Boolean condition. I need to give. You see the argument? It's Boolean condition, which means actual text. This one I can just do actual text. Contains. I'll just check whether it's true or not. Contains. Now alert text is a variable which I declared inside this method. How can we access outside the method?
Defining it class level.
So for the timing, what I can do is I can declare this string declaration. This declaration I can cut it and I can put at the class level for the timing, so that everywhere it will be accessible. I'll just give private static, so outside will not be able to access. So this variable I should be loading. It's this done. Here assert true means condition what you write that should be true. If it is true, test method will be passed. Otherwise, it will be failure. Understood? Assert true. We have seen till now. We have seen assert equals only, and assert equals only, comparing the both the value. Now this is assert true. Got it?
Yes.
Any true or false you need to give. If it is true, it is passed. An expected patient name. Here also I need to get the current patient name after clicking on close. This will be the name, and you can see it gives you the XPath, normalize XPath, which to you can see it comes under a frame PAD. So I have to get into the frame, do the operation again. Yeah, which is similar to this frame. I get into the frame, then I need to get the name, patient name. You see it has H2. Under H2 there are text in this, and there are space, so I can use XPath / H2. It will be pointing, lot frame is there. Let me go for content text. So I can give some part of a text, which means record dashboard, pointing that element. But text to get the inner text. Now this will give you the expected active value. Every then should have minimum one session. That equals expected patient name, comma, actual value. this string it will compare, then it will complete the operation. Let me debug this code from the beginning. I'll add a breakpoint in all this section and show you. A login page I'll put, and I'll put it in the next page till login here. So once the login is done, then it will get into, I click on patient, so it comes under this code. Patient, only that class is included. Let me command the dry run and I run. Now listen carefully, demo debug as JUnit. Now it completed the given and it comes to the language. Given is done. So language. So it will enter the language. I already created the method vdebugger. That method, let me go for enter password. Once that is done, we'll go for language. After that, I have to log in. Let me click on login. After clicking on login, it will go for the next one, which is nothing but click on patient. You can see here. I'll just put a breakpoint in the data table section. I'll remove this and I'll try to click on resume. It will click on patient and then new search. Then it gets into data table. This will be the key value pair. Data value pair. Okay, I'm just converting that into a list of hash maps. You can see here every index point will have a list here, and that list will have the action keyword, which is dictionary. A list 0. Under that dictionary is that key value pair. Key is nothing but column name, and you can see 0th index is having first name equal to John, first index last name equal to big, gender, DOB. So we are using it and getting the value. Getting into the frame, entering the first name, last name, DOB. See, everything is done. After that, you can see I'm clicking on the create new patient. Once I click on create new patient, it comes with a pop-up where I have to click on confirm, and then I have to once again confirm will come, which I have to click on confirm. It's loading. Now you see it comes to the alert box. Now, alert doesn't come always in the first. It takes some time to display the alert. Okay, since I'm debugging, I gave some time, so alert came. Just getting the text from the alert and store it in the static variable. Alert throw some errors. Let me check that. Switch to alert.get text. Okay, let me try to remove all the breakpoint. See, I'll just tell you, we can add explicit wait. Did we discuss about explicit wait?
Yes.
Yeah, so we can add the explicit wait just to make sure alert comes properly. I'll just add the explicit wait, WebDriver wait wait equal to new web driver. So instead of repeating this code, we have to try to get a keyword and use it. As of now, I'll use this here, duration dot of second dot tlk wait dot until expected conditions dot alert is present. And this is a automation script only. You just adding it in the BDD framework. BDD concept should be clear right now. This automation script, you can try to troubleshoot and fix it. You can see it got the alert detail, alert text detail, complete detail it got. You're not validating, just storing those values, those text. Now, in the actual alert text, now I'm trying to close the now I'm see I check the size which is there, so I get into the click on it. Next, I'm trying to get into the frame and in the text, so it's a failure. Let me open the report. You can open it in the console, or you always check the report. If report is not shown, it should be inside the target the folder I give index register. Let me open the report. You see the assertion got failed. Assertion error should contain this, which is not there. I should see alert text. I think it should have space. So let me give just tobacco and run it. See, test got completed. Okay. I'm adding John Wick and checking for John Wick, and that assertion is completed. Let me open the report. Updated report. You can see the complete automation script is done. So I have to put it into page object model, which I'll be doing it in some time. So till this, it's clear for you.
Yes.
Now I have done with this scenario. Now this scenario, I want to run with two different test data. I want to add a patient right now. Okay, scenario outline is what we will be converting. Most of the time, you will be working with scenario outline. Okay, I want to run first time with John Wick. Next time I want to run with Peter Paul. Some name, those things I wanted. Another time I should be getting the name as Peter. So that's the detail. Now, how to achieve that? For that, what you need to do is, in order to run one scenario with multiple data, then you have to go for scenario outline. So it's very easy. Over here, I'll just keep the code for your reference. Let me update GitHub. team commit. I'll just comment at patient test completed. Commit and push. That is done. Now what I'll do is just keep say I can create a duplicate scenario and I do. Anyhow, we don't do that. Let me take this copy and put in the Excel session. That's for your reference only. Anyway, it's not required. I have to convert this into scenario outline. I think. So scenario outline should be followed with example for sure. You have to give that example. Scenario outline should be followed with example. Now, what are the records I want? I wanted to run with the different records. First is John. That's header I need to give. So something like first name. I want to run with this first name. So first name, last name. These are the records we want to dynamically send. Last name, DOB, vendor, and then vendor alert text. Expected alert text. You can give it in lowercase, and then alert text. I will do alert text. Okay. We added patient record. If you are getting confused with this particular name, what you can do is you can add expected patient name, expected patient name, give it in lowercase, expected alert text. Some header, any header. Already we have done this for a valid credential, I guess, or a valid login, I guess, different login. So I created you can see I created a header, username, password, language, and then different data I pass. Now I created the record, like I created the record. First time I want to send John. Second time I want to send OB. I have to do the format properly. So already we have updated the format in the application. It's working fine. Expected alert. Let me keep it same. It will format it. Any format you do, it will align the code properly. This one record is ready. Second row is also ready. Second row I want to run with all. Peter. I'll give some other date for the second thing. I'll give the date as 12. I'll just pretty format. Yeah. Done. Scenario outline is done. Now what I need to do is I have to make sure where the first name, last name comes into picture. Here, instead of hard coded data, I have to give first name, and here I have to give last name. First row will be running at the time those record will be taken. OB, and over here vendor and then DOB is what I'm doing. DOB. If I align it, it will be clear for the format you do, it will align. Name, last name. So this will be one header, and this will be one header. So got it. This is what you will be writing in the beginning scenario outline. First concentrate on one scenario, complete the automation, then you convert into scenario outline. Is it clear for you?
Yes.
Multiple record. Now no changes in the script. If I try to run the script, it will run 2 times. And it will launch the browser, run it. And we are validating the DOB. If it is today's date, then only happy birthday comes. Otherwise, happy birthday doesn't come. So I'm just checking it and closing it. If the first row is failed, then it will run the second one. It will not skip the complete execution. One got failure, the other one is passed. Anyhow, report will be there. Let me refresh it and check it. You see the report right now, two records. Okay. Examples you can see, and the second one is failure. Expected record. That's fine. The data what I passed it, data should be properly here. Peter. Okay, that should be fine. Expected record. This is clear for you, right? So whatever the name I'm adding, that name I need to do. This is just scenario outline. So if you take BDD framework, these are the concepts. In these concepts, you have to prepare all the details. So 99% as much as possible, all the data we try to give it over here. In some scenario where you'll have huge records, like you want to take some 60 records or 100 records from the Excel and all, in that case, it's not possible to give it in this one. It will be quite difficult to sit and write those things. At that time, you can connect to the Excel and can do the operation. Excel connectivity, already we have done the code. That Excel utils, you can add it inside this one package. You can create and add the Excel utils, and you can call the method where you will be getting it as an object array. Then you can handle it directly. Maybe I'll show that tomorrow. Any of that is not actually a part of BDD, but that's what framework creation sometimes. So now going to the next step, this BDD concept is done. Page object model is there, and static page object is what I've used. Page object concept is same only, no changes in the page object concept. Whether you go with static or non-static, the concept of page object is same. We created a page object model in the previous framework, hybrid framework. No page object model. With the page object model I created. In page object, what I did is actually first I introduced with static, then I converted everything to non-static by creating the constructor. Then we try to connect to the parent class and created our own reusable code, right? So that's the thing which we did. Now, let me move on to the next step. Scenario. Okay. Now, so I'll just explain some advanced concept right now. See, the framework is done. We can keep on extending this framework. For example, you see we are creating the page objects, like take simple scenario, login scenario. For login feature file, we created two thing. One is valid credential, the other one is invalid credential. Now, yeah, just give me a minute. Just a minute, I'll be back. See, we have already created the page objects for extending with, for example, if you see the hybrid framework and compare the BDD framework, you can understand the importance of BDD. But in hybrid framework, you created a page object. Now, after creating the page object, we first created with static, then we converted to non-static, right? When you go for non-static, you will have the extensibility easily, so that you can get some methods from the parent and do the operation. All these extensibility will be there. You can create multiple objects and you can run for parallel running and all. You can create different objects and you can easily run it. That's the advantage of going with page object model with non-static. And unwantedly, it will not load all the variables. Whenever it is required, you will create an object and you will call it. For example, we are doing an invalid credential. For doing an invalid credential, we are not creating for object for add employee, directory page, orange portal and all. Only this page object we created. That too, it will get destroyed after coming out of the test method. But when it comes to static, all the static variable what we have created in this will get loaded immediately once the class is referred. And once it is loaded, it will be active in memory always until you close the application. The application becomes heavy. Because of that, performance issue would be there. Okay, to overcome this issue, what we do is we'll convert this to non-static. Now, let me do that. Listen carefully. And this is something which you have to understand, because we will be working something called a dependency injection, which is a Cucumber BDD Cucumber. They started supporting. Earlier, this methodology is not there. Cucumber dependency injection. Now they started giving you support for dependency injection. Initially, it was there in C#. Now Java team Cucumber also giving you the concept dependency injection. You can use any of this dependency injection. I'm going to use Pico container. The concept of this dependency injection, I'll tell you. We have to add the library. So dependency you need to add. Once this is done, you can see some guidance on the dependency injection here. Okay. So we will declare a driver, a non-static driver will declare, and then we'll initialize the driver, non-static variable. Now that non-static variable, I need to get it in the step definition. To get it into the step definition, you can see here, we'll try to create an injector. In every class, we will create a constructor. In every class, we'll try to create a constructor, and that constructor will have an argument of the WebDriver wrapper. Every constructor in the step definition. Let me first show you that. First, let me make it as a non-static here. Let me remove the static keyword here. Oh, how to call this method first of all? If I make it as non-static, login page is non-static. Now, how to call this method?
Using object.
So using object, I need to call. I made it as non-static. So page object is ready with non-static, and I can do one thing. Like what I can do is I can same thing. So I go over here in the step definition. You can see all these are throwing error. Got it? All the class, every step it's throwing error because I need to create an object. So I need to do something like this. Login page, login equal to new login page. Object I need to create. Now I have to use this reference, correct? So this is what I need to use, correct? So for creating the object and calling it.
Yes.
So now doing this for like creating an object is fine, but creating an object under every method, it's a unwanted problem only here. Creating an object under every method, so which is not required. So what we do is we'll create an object only once for each step definition. For example, here I'll be creating, instead of declaring it here, I'll just remove it and declare it in the class level. Login page type, and object I'll be creating And using that, here I'm creating an object, right? So after first when I refer, I'll create an object, and then I'll be using that reference and call the method. The execution is going to be same right now. And see here in this class, I'll be having some like public void page initialization, and whatever the object required for this particular page, I'll be creating page initialization, which you can create initialize page or page initialization, anything is fine. Initialize page, and this script I can keep it here. I want object for main page also, then I can do equal to a new main page. Okay, so this reference I'll keep it in the class level. Now what I can do is in main page also I can go to main page. I'll make it as all or non-static. Okay. So I just made every method as non-static. So here a main page it will throw error. So I can use main here. Okay, this is done. And here I can use main here. So page object model is constructed with non-static method. Error message is coming into the login only, right? So login reference, sorry. Now main is done. So step definition patient steps will throw error. Oh, why these are all throwing error? The same thing. I need to create an object, right? So it's a non-static method. So this class, let it be. Here what I need to do is, this class what I'll do is I'll just hard code it and keep it. Later I'll call the page objects. Setup only we need to modify. Let me try to do that. Remaining, I'll convert it to page object later for this class. Just concentrate on login page. Leave about the patient. The patient step is not using any of the page objects. No issues. Directly hard coded. So patient step is not an issue. So in login, it's clear for you what I did. So in the login step, whatever the class is required, whatever the page object is required, you declare it in the class level. After declaring it in the class level, there will be a method called initialize page. This method anyhow I need to call, I'll be calling it. Now this method I need to call, which will initialize the object. Now using that object reference, you can call all the non-static method. First, is that clear for you?
Yes.
No. Few things I'll be updating. For example, browser launch and all. You don't have to browser launch. You don't have to give it over here. Let me this browser launch. This method I'll and I'll put it in the wrapper class. In wrapper class, I'll create one method here. Void launch browser string browser string browser. I'll keep this. And some condition I'll be writing if browser equal to dot equals ignore case. If it is if the same if condition, I'll just take it from the hybrid frame. This if condition. Extend report also you can add it. Yes, I'm sorry. The simple if condition I read. Browser name the string Yeah, fine. So if condition I've written, so I'll call this method. So let it be a non-static method. So how will you call this non-static method? By creating the object, right? So let me go to the login step. Now here, what we do is we don't create an object unnecessarily. So for example, we will not create an object. For example, login step is a class. Are we creating the object login step anywhere?
No.
But there's non-static methods and all getting run, right? So given at the rate, given at the rate, when these methods are non-static, it's automatically creating an object and running. So what happens is here in the login step, there will be a constructor. There will be a constructor login steps. There will be a constructor. Now this in this class, just give me a minute. Now login step, yeah, login steps is there, right? So login step will be trying to get the class. For example, we don't create an object. So when constructor will be called, see when the constructor is going to be called,
When object is
yeah,
initial.
when object creation happen, at that time it will call. So during that time, what I'll do is I'll just pass WebDriver wrapper, WebDriver wrapper. I'll give wrapper. So now, right now, this is called dependency injection, WebDriver wrapper. So during the object creation, so when I run any of the runner file, in runner file, I can include any of the scenario. For example, I'm going to include only valid. So let me keep it as invalid. Now, when I give an invalid, it will try to trigger that scenario. So that scenario will be triggered over now. So when that scenario is getting triggered, I have a browser, open EMR, and I enter username. This method come. Before getting into this one, first time these step definitions are inside the login step. So login step will automatically initialize this while calling the step definition. Basically, it happens internally. The object for these classes will be done. Object for all these classes will be done by the BDD team. They call the jar which we have added. So that will try to initialize the login step, patient step, WebDriver wrapper, and keep it in memory. One object it will create and keep it in memory. To access that object, we use this WebDriver wrapper. Okay, now this is the local variable. It's a local variable. How to access this wrapper? This is something like an object creation. So I need to access that here, wrapper, and then I have to call the launch browser method. Now you can see here the local variable. And to access the local variable, I have to declare some other class load. So WebDriver wrapper. I can do this this wrapper equal to wrapper. Now it will bring up a conflict between the local variable and instance variable. How to distinguish that? By using the
This dot wrapper is
yeah
equal.
this dot you can do. Okay, and here also it's basically this dot login only. This dot login only. If you want to give this dot, you can give. Otherwise, not required because there is no conflict here. But here, automatically object will be coming for this particular class. The object will be coming. That object will initialize this non-static variable. Let me make it as non-static. The object will be initializing this non-static variable, and then a driver will be there. So first of all, an object of this WebDriver wrapper will be created. Object of WebDriver, we don't create it. Initially, it will be created. Inside the driver variable will be there. So this is an object of WebDriver wrapper. Some L1 location. Driver is going to point to Chrome browser. Assume that it is pointing to Chrome browser. Now, this driver object will be there. To access that driver, this driver, I need to create an object of WebDriver wrapper. If you keep on creating an object, it will initialize new thing. So we'll use the object created by the Cucumber. So that's what we will get it through the constructor. Whatever the class you require, those class detail you give it over here. the object will be created by Cucumber team, and that object will be served. If no object is available, it will create. The object is already created, it will serve that object. Now this dot wrapper equal to wrapper. Now I can do wrapper dot launch browser. I will give the launch browser. Let me keep it as ch. Okay. Let me keep it as ch here. Now launch browser is called. Launch browser, what it does is it will create an object of a new Chrome driver and try to load it in memory. So all these places I can remove WebDriver wrapper. It's basically a static variable, so which I can call in the same class. You can call under the static method. The static method is called by using which object. Based on that, that driver will be used. Now you can see this will be the object. Apply wrapper dot launch browser, which is done. Now in the construct itself, I can do initialize page, which will call this method. Object of login will also be done. Initialize web page. So this is something which I'll be creating in all these step definitions. Launch browser is done. Okay, now. So only thing is this WebDriver wrapper. This dot login page WebDriver wrapper. Now in the next, I'll go for the WebDriver wrapper, and it says non-static method. Let me remove this. And I'll go to the patient step. Listen carefully. In patient steps, you'll get some clarity. In patient steps, driver dot, you cannot do it. You have to do, you see driver dot, it's not giving. It's basically a non-static variable, right? So it's a non-static variable. Non-static variable, how will you call? These are all non-static variable. I don't have to give WebDriver dot. All these are non-static variables. So non-static variable we call using the object reference. Okay. Now let me which is done. Anyhow, it's going to throw error. So to fix this error, I have to create a WebDriver wrapper. Okay, and using this any variable name, that's fine. So here I have to initialize this WebDriver wrapper. For that, public patient steps, patient steps, which is nothing but this particular class name, patient steps, and inside this WebDriver wrapper. So you don't want to worry about it. Already this injection will happen. But to just create an object for this, and you need to do this. Okay, now I can do this wherever I'm using driver. I have to just do table name dot object reference dot driver. Okay, wherever there is a driver. Wherever there is a driver dot, I have to just do WebDriver wrapper dot driver dot driver dot driver dot. wherever I use class name and all that method, I declared a WebDriver wrapper, and then I did initialize that wrapper. So I have to use the already created object. This object I need to use. That object will be automatically getting injected here. Okay, this is called dependency injection. Whatever the class you require, you don't have to create an object. See, one object is required to be used by login step. That same object should be used by patient step also. So it's quite difficult for us to maintain that. We have to do inheritance for maintaining it. If you do inheritance, it will bring up a lots of issue because we are not initializing it. It will create two-step definition. When you create an object for the child, it will initialize parent also. Two methods will be there in memory. So it will give duplicates method when you do inheritance. So we don't do unwanted inheritance right hereafter. What we do basically is we'll try to do the dependency injection. Whatever the object you require, any class object you require, you mention it here. It automatically brings that object. Then you load it at the class level, then you start using it. Okay, so all these step definition. For example, next assume that I'm adding a patient step is there. So something like about section I'm trying to work on. I'll be adding about steps. In about steps, what I need is I need a WebDriver app driver detail. I need it to get the driver detail. I'll just run the script in WebDriver app, this particular script. So wrapper will be there. So I can create one method like public void that step definition, and that step definition we use wrapper.driver.find element, the variable name. Okay. Now it's done. Till this it's done. So one thing is what I need to do. A few errors or this is login page and all. I need to call using the. You can see all these are static methods, right? So what I'll do, so page object model will be same like what we did in Bdd framework. In page object model, sorry, in the structure, if you see, we created with the driver. So same thing, I'll do it over here. That's basically an independent code. This object we are creating. This is our under control. But object for login step, object for patient step, we are not creating. This object we are creating. So while creating an object, we'll set up the login page driver. So this driver, you can use it for doing the operation. This is fixed. So main page will throw error. In main page also, I'll be creating the constructor. And this is a page object model, which we discussed in the previous class of page object model, same thing. Okay, this object we are creating. So we will have the control when to create it, when to terminate the object. So this is under our control. Now the login page. Now all my step definition where I'm creating an object. So how to pass the driver here? Like while creating an object, it will ask for driver detail. A driver where we declare the driver, the variable name driver. In WebDriver wrapper, we declare the driver, right?
Yes.
Now I need to give this driver. See, I cannot direct give this driver here. It is not possible. The driver object will be present under wrapper. This is the non-static variable. To call the non-static variable, I need to create an object. So already object is created by BDD. We will be using that. So to use that, we will be mentioning that over here. Constructor always it will pass the value, the current object it will pass. That object we have to temporarily store it and use it. For this class level, you can declare that. And you can use that WebDriver, a non-static method we are calling. Same way you can access the non-static variable wrapper.driver. So wrapper.driver you need to do. Now all these are done. So right now let me try to debug it and show you. Let me remove all these unwanted. image object model we created, and Bdd framework with dependency injection for using non-static variable WebDriver wrapper class. See, right now only thing is I have to add a Pico container. You can see here in this class, you see using custom injector, that's a dependency injection. For example, you can see there is a class called app service. There is a class called app service which they have created in the top. You can see this is your step definition class. It's a step definition class. Now the step definition class, they created a constructor. After creating a constructor, this is the class name constructor, and they are passing something like app service or app service and some variable name. It's a app service is a class. So automatically object will be created for app service. When object is created for app service, this is the app service class. When object is created for app service, where is the class? Now automatically it will create the object and it will send that app service class. Okay. To better understand it, I'll declare some. I'll just run it and show you. Then I'll declare some unwanted variable and I'll show you the flow so that you can understand. So to get this dependency injection, we have to add a jar dependency. Any of these dependency I can use. Let me use Pico container, which is widely used actually. Pico container is something which is widely used. After adding it, we will have latest version. To get the latest version, just search it and check it. Pico container. It's very old one. IO.Kumbar is now what we are using. If you see info.qs, don't use it. It's very old one. They are not updating. Okay. IO.Cucumber. Search for Pico container. You will be getting IO.Cucumber. And only that is keep on getting updated. You can see Jan 22. They have updated. I have to go to pom.xml. I need to add the dependency. Dependencies. First thing you need to add dependencies. These are the steps to achieve that. Add dependencies. Then what you need to do is create a constructor in the step definition class. And then pass the argument of required type. That is basically class. Okay. Once you pass it, the object will be created automatically. Just see the flow right now. Let me put a breakpoint in all these sections and show you. I'll put a breakpoint here. I'll put a breakpoint here. And login page, I'll go login step I'll go, and login step I'll start from the beginning. So here, and here, let me put a breakpoint in each and every section in login page. Let me go for valid credential. Let me run the valid credential. First, I'll run the invalid credential and show you. To run the invalid credential, runner class invalid is already mentioned. Let me run it in a debug mode. Now, when I run it in the debug mode, first you see given will be called. In the feature file, you can see given is there. It will call the given. Okay. So before it calls the given, I added a breakpoint in the constructor. You can see here. We are calling the. You can see here we are. I have to add this. I'll tell you what is happening. One thing, this initialization should be added after the given. because launch browser only will be initializing. Right now you can see object is created for wrapper class. How many non-static variable here in this class wrapper class? How many non-static variable we have? How many non-static variable we have here in wrapper class? Hello, am I audible? So right now you can see there will be one non-static variable. Okay, so since we added the injector over here, while running this program, first it will call the constructor, because the given is there, given is getting called, given is there in the login step. So to initialize, while initializing the login step, it will send the object of wrapper class. You can see wrapper object is created, and ID you can see 84, location is something like 5cc12. That's the object. Now that object is having a driver which is null. Now I have to go to the launch browser, but I'm calling initialize page. But initialize page right now, the driver is basically null over here. You can see driver is null. All the driver are null right now. So wrapper driver is null. Now it will go to the launch browser. You can see wrapper class is having a driver null. Launch browser I'm calling. It will get into this method. Now in this method, I'm writing a simple if condition and checking for the Chrome. Launching the Chrome browser, navigating to the URL. Now after navigating to the URL, it will go to the win. It will go to the win part once the navigation to the URL is done. In the win part, I'm trying to create an object for login. You can see driver is null. The reason is I am launching the browser after that. Launching the browser after that, like driver equal to new Chrome driver is getting launched. Post calling the launch browser only. Now while calling launch browser only, it is getting launched. Now after driver is updated, then only I should be updating this initialize page for the first time. Right now you can see login is created, object is created, all the non-static variable is available. Whatever I injected initially, those are all available properly. You can see rest driver is null because I was initializing the login page and main page without launching the browser. So the driver will be null at that time. So right now, if I do any operation, it will give you null pointer exception. Only thing is I have to just make sure this first thing, the launch browser is happened in initialization. Only then you have to start the initialize page. Okay. Now rest of the things will be same only, no changes in the script. Let me run it in debug mode. So whenever I run it in debug mode, it will call the constructor in the step definition. Constructor in step definition means the WebDriver wrapper I've given as an argument. The object will be created. Something like WebDriver wrapper equal to new WebDriver wrapper is created in memory. Something like this, which is already created in memory. WebDriver wrapper, which will be taken by the Cucumber. So object created. Now inside this object, you'll have wrap driver will be there. Wrap will be pointing to some object. Object will have driver variable. Now this is a local variable. To access it through this class, I declare something over here. This wrapper will be null right now. I'm just updating with this the argument which I'm getting. So wrapper will be pointing to that object. This is the object. Now then it will go for the launch browser. You can see given is running right now. Wrapper.launch browser. Current object called the non-static method. So over here I'm launching the browser. Now driver will be updated. A driver that is something which you cannot directly access. It is inside the object of WebDriver wrapper. This inside this wrapper.driver is having the wrapper.driver is going to have the new Chrome browser, new Chrome driver right now. All these are in location 1. Okay, now you can see here. Now what I am trying to do is avoid initializing the web login page. I call this method initialize page. Login page object is created. While creating the login page object, I'm sending the driver detail. You can see the driver detail, which is same ID 129, and that driver detail I'm updating to this local one in this login page driver. You can see login page object is created. Under login page, all the non-static variable will be there. There is one of the non-static variable called driver that will point to the same Chrome browser. Okay, now login.driver is also pointing to the same. See, this is actually pointing to new Chrome driver. Along with that, login.driver is also, login is basically a variable. And then I'm going to create one more of main page. You can see here also you have lots of non-static variable. Now main will be having all the non-static variable. Inside that, one driver is there. So main dot, I can use login.driver, main.driver to access the driver. I can use, in order to work with this Chrome browser, I can use wrapper.driver, one option. I can use login.driver, main.driver. All the reference variable is pointing to same browser. Now the methods which I'm trying to access is basically inside the login page. So I just use login.enter username. Login is already having the driver, the current browser detail. Using non-static method, it is based on the current object reference. It will run in the current object reference driver is there. Using that, it will try to enter the data. Now login dot password, it will enter the password because login is already having the driver detail. If you call this method a non-static method, you can see login dot select language, which means whatever is inside the login, which you can use it directly. That's what we discussed on the student class, employee class, and all. It uses driver, it uses language text because in the current object, all these are available. Now this is done. Next, it will go for the login. Next, after going for the login, get invalid. It's in the same page comparing test method is passed. After that, it will close the browser. So whatever I have created with the static, everything I converted to non-static. Let me go for valid. Object getting created, like first time when you run, it will try to create an object for login step because the step definition is inside that particular. All the whatever the detail you give, it will create an object. For all the classes inside these packages, it will create an object. While creating an object, if you mention the constructor, it will call that constructor. Now it comes to this constructor. While coming to this constructor, we have given WebDriver wrapper. So whatever the class you give, it will try to initialize and keep it in memory. So you can see driver is now. So it will launch the browser, initialize the web page. Just the flow you need to understand. So whatever the step definition you have to just create a constructor. That's it. Now you can see it comes to the main page. Driver dot main page is going to main is pointing to some driver. The driver dot title, validating the title. So it has two credential. It will run 2 times. Feature file is having 2 data. report will be generated based on the current execution right. Okay. So now, if you see here, let me give you a description on that particular dependency injection. Let me do one thing. I'll just create a class here, some dummy class. I'll just create a class called rectangle. I'll just create a class called rectangle. And I'm not going to use this class. This is just for your understanding. So, okay, let me, created a class called rectangle. Inside this, I'm going to give one thing like public int with one non-static variable and one more non-static variable, public int double or int whatever it is, double with simple length. Okay. So created two non-static variable. Now, okay. So if you want, I want to use this with, okay. I wanted to create an object of rectangle and then let me keep 2 as double. I wanted to, or let me keep it as integer so that you can easily understand. Non-static variable, how will you call this method? Like, how will you call this variable? If you want to load with value.
Object reference.
Object is need to be created. Now, okay, I wanted to do one thing. I want to create an object for rectangle. And then after creating an object for rectangle, so something like this, I want to do rectangle. Rectangle, let me keep r equal to new rectangle. Now, this particular object is going to have two variable. One is r dot width can access. The object will basically, it will create an object somewhere in memory. That object will be pointed by r right now. Just adding it in a notepad, or will have width and height. Okay, I'm going to give width as 45 and then r dot height as 95. Now, this width and height I want to use in login step. I want to use that width and height. This is exactly width and height. So inside this object, I have the record width as 45 and height as 45. Those two record. I created an object, right? So I created an object here. Exactly this width and height, this variable name width and this height I need to access in login step. I want to access in patient step, and I wanted to access in WebDriver wrapper also. Okay, that particular object, one object which I created, I want to access in all these places. So how to achieve? How can we do that? Suppose assume that I'm creating an object here. Okay. Let me go to login step. In login step, somewhere here I'm creating an object. Just in the given, I'm creating an object. Rectangle. Let me import it for the timing. com.nsc.base equal to new rectangle. R dot width I'm doing, which is 45. R dot height I'm giving, which is width I'm giving, which is 25. Width and height, width and length. Sorry. This width and height I want to access this given. Okay. Given I've done, so I want to access in when. How to access it? We cannot do this, right? System.out.println r dot width, it's not accessible here. So what I can do in that case, r is not accessible. So what I can do, it's a local variable, right? Object what I created, it's a locally I've created inside the method,
Yes.
so it will be accessible. So
You
what
have
I
to
can
create it class level.
Yeah, declaration you need to do it in the class level, right? This is done. So rectangle r, and I can do r equal to declaration. You need to do object. You can create it inside the method using the same variable. Now you can see r dot width is accessible. Okay. Now the same dot r dot width I want to access in patient step also. In patient step also I want to access same r dot width. So how can I do that? R dot width. If I create a new object, I have to initialize the value again. So in this case, I want to use some variable in the parent class, right? Something like this. I want to use a variable in this class. So I can do extends, right? Here I can do extends, and then I can do login step. Let me do that login step. Now, if it is you can see r dot width is accessible right now. Got it? Now, the problem here is, are we creating an object for patient step? The login step, patient step. Are we creating an object to call this when, given, when, then, and all? It's happening automatically, right? When we run it. So Cucumber is actually creating an object and calling it. Suppose while creating an object, what will happen right now is Cucumber will get confused over here. Like while creating an object for the child, memory will be allocated for parent, then it will go for child. And one more object will be already available for login step. First memory will be allocated for login step, then it will go over here. Again, there will be a memory allocation happens on login step. It will get a conflict between the which object from which object I have to call the method. So extends, you should not use it for the step definition classes. You should not use extend for the step definition classes. Remember that. Okay. Now, without that, I need to access this r dot width. Without using extend, I need to do, because extends, if I do, it will give you an error for sure, because we are not creating an object for this one. It's already created by Cucumber. Okay, that Cucumber will not, while allocating for parent, 2 times this method will be allocated in memory. So it will become a duplicate step definition. Now, how can we access this r dot width? Okay, so now to avoid this conflict without inheritance, it's not possible in the to achieve this. To avoid this, what we will do is, we don't create an object for rectangle. Like, we don't create a object for rectangle. Okay, now who's going to create an object for rectangle now? For that, what I'll do is I'll just pass comma rectangle. Let me keep r. I'm just giving rectangle r. Now I'll just do this dot r equal to r here. One variable here. Understood? I just pass the argument here. I'm not going to create an object. I removed that new rectangle, and then I just pass the argument rectangle or I passed. Now that local variable, this is a local variable that I try to set it to the instance variable of this login step. Now you can see r dot width is accessible, r dot length is accessible. Take me, I wanted to access this r dot width, r dot length in the next class. So again, what I'll do is, I don't create an object. I'll just call the argument here, and then this dot r equal to r. I just want to declare it one variable here. Okay, we will not create an object for any classes, so automatically it will be created by the login step. Let me, like bdd. A rectangle is no use in this program, but I created a rectangle and declared two variable, non-static variable width and height. In all the step definition, just concentrate on the step definition. In all the step definition, see what I'm trying to do. In all the step definition, I'm trying to pass that as an argument, rectangle, or in about step also, I'll be passing comma rectangle, or whatever is required, I'll be passing the argument. Let me save the entire program and I'll try to trigger the runner file. Let me trigger the patience, so that patient is something which deals with two-step definition, because this method are coming from login step, these methods are coming from patient step. Two class comes into picture right now, two-step definition. Let me debug the code. Now you see wrapper, one object is created for wrapper. Okay, one object is created for wrapper. This is for wrapper, w wrapper. Okay, and what is the one more argument I'm passing? Rectangle. So one object will be created for rectangle r. The two object I created. This is L1, this is L2. Two object. One is rectangle object, other one is wrapper object. WebDriver wrapper object. WebDriver wrapper is basically containing one non-static variable driver, and rectangle containing how many non-static variable rectangle class? Two, length and width. So in that object, we are not creating an object. We are just passing the argument here. Now here are like width will be there and length will be there, which will have default values. You can see the default value 0, 0. Now WebDriver wrapper is a class which is having a one non-static variable driver. You can see wrapper location and all. You can see this is saying something like 7FD4ACE is here. The location driver is null right now. Inside this object, driver is there, which is actually null right now. Okay, and just this wrapper and object wrapper and or it's a local variable right now. Object is created and right now local variable is pointing wrapper or is a local variable that I am trying to set it at the class level. You can see here this dot wrapper, this dot r. Now this wrapper will be pointing to this object what I created, login step wrapper variable, and then login step class. Inside the login step class or is there, so that will point to these two objects right now during the runtime. Now you can see wrapper, the address is same, or address or id. You can see id, you see 84, this id you see 88. Okay, A71. So length and width is 0. Now let me go for the next step. It will, I'm launching the browser. Okay, it will launch the browser. Now after launching the browser, initialize web page. So it will create an object for login page, main page, object is created. Now this login page, main page, and wrapper or all are all available. Okay, object for login page and main page I created it, but these two object is created by Cucumber. Okay, it's a dependency injection, this process. Now in the object which is created by Cucumber, rectangle object, in that object I'm setting length and width you see 0. I'm setting the value. Okay, 95, 45. I'm setting it to 95 and 45 here. 95 and the other one is 45. Okay. Now let me go for the next step. It enter username, it enter password, click on login. Then it has to go to the patient step. I forgot to put a breakpoint here. Sorry. I forgot to put a breakpoint. It should come. Let's see. No, it is completing the code. Let me rerun it. I'll stop it. Debug. You can see all the non-static variable in login step. Null, main is null, login is null, wrapper is null, WebDriver wrapper, rectangle or is null. First, I'm creating I'm just passing this dependency injection, which BDD will create an object and send for wrapper and WebDriver wrapper and rectangle. That I'm storing it, WebDriver wrapper in my local variable in this instance variable. The login step variable, I'm trying to set rectangle. Now next it will go to the given. In the given, I'm launching the browser. After launching the browser, it will go to the initialization. Line number 32. It comes to line number 32 now. Now you see here initialization is done. Two object I'm creating. Login page object I'm creating. Main page object I'm creating. Right now main is null. While creating an object, wrapper.driver. So where launch browser happened, using this wrapper.driver only, This wrapper dot driver only, it was trying to launch the browser. Rectangle or is not disturbed right now. Or you see with the length and width is still 0. Object is there, but it is 0. After completing this, you see I'm just loading r dot width, r dot length. This one I'm updating it to 95, 45, 95. Now you can see r this dot r 95, 45. Location is 87 A71. ID is 88. Now it will next it will try to enter username, then enter password, select language, then click on login. After clicking on login, it should go to the patient steps, because next step definition after clicking on login, I need to click on patient. You can see before calling this click on patient, it needs an object, right? First time it's referring this bin, so it needs an object for calling this non-static method. Object is getting created. While creating an object, we have forced to send a 2 argument. One is wrapper. You can see the object which was created. These 2 objects we did not create it. It was created by BDD. It's passing the current wrapper object, WebDriver wrapper object. In the current object, we have driver as Chrome browser. This is having Chrome browser. What about in the current object, the BDD created an object for rectangle, right? In that, what was length and width? You can see that value here, length and width. Okay, and that this rectangle R is null, this wrapper is null. I'm just giving this dot or this dot wrapper. Okay, now in the when part, you can see I'll be able to access the value which I'm updated in the previous class. Okay, you can see R dot width, and we'll be able to print it 45, because we are not creating an object. BDD will create that object and keep it in memory. You just want to pass this as an argument. Got an idea over this? The remaining steps are going to be same.
Yes.
Okay. Inheritance is not possible. Login step inheritance is not possible, because we are not creating an object for this patient step. So because of that, most of the time people use the static concepts, but there are some advanced containers like this, which will take care of object initialization. You don't want to worry about it. Let me close it. Okay. If you go for static, no issues. You don't have to create these constructor. Nothing is required. The problem here is see the step definition will be in any of these classes, right? Step definition will be there in login step. For this feature file, you take this scenario. Step definition is coming from 2 different class file. Sometimes it will be in 3 different class file. You need a continuation. You need a record from first class to second class. Without inheritance, how are we going to pass? And driver detail I need it for all the classes. So how are we going to pass? Every class, if I create an object for WebDriver wrapper, it will initialize a new driver, which is not required. I need to launch it in one place and I need to access it in all the places. So how can I do it? The same way I access the rectangle right now. If you notice it, the rectangle r equal to r dot width 45, r dot length 95. That rectangle object I need it. So I will not create any object for rectangle. I'll just pass it as argument here. When this first time comes, at the time object will be created. That object will be served for remaining step definitions. Understood? That's the same object.
Yes.
So whatever you mentioned it here, the object we should not create it. That's the logic here. Let me remove just for understanding rectangle, which is not required. And this is called Pico container. Pico container is actually this concept given by Pico container. It's a dependency injection. In dependency injection, okay, technique in which an object receives other object that it depends on, called dependencies. Check that later. Okay. In software engineering, dependency injection is a technique in which an object receives other object that it depends on. Okay. Yeah, right now, WebDriver app, in that there is a driver object. That object I needed. To get that, I can use the concept of dependency injection by just adding this. Some additional argument is required to achieve this in Cucumber. For that only, we try to add that dependency container dependency in form.xml. The rectangle file is not required. Rectangle class. Okay. So I have a BD. You see the GitHub what I created. There will be a project like BDD project which I created. One, let me keep this static here. Sorry, this master right now you see it's having a page objects, I guess, with static page objects with static, which will not give you any confusion. Just call the driver by using class name and solve it. It is going to be simple. Now, how to use the non-static variable in that? Then you have to use dependency injection and inject it in all these step definition classes. Whichever the classes need the driver going forward, whichever the classes need the driver, this particular driver going forward, what you need to do is you have to create a constructor, inject that WebDriver wrapper detail. Okay, and then use wrapper.driver. That's what I did it in patient steps. Rectangle should not be available here. Let me remove it. Okay. Only thing is this I'll be adding it in all these step definition classes. Rectangle declaration is not required. Let me remove it. Create a new branch and I'll keep this record in that branch. Now you can see here Bdd framework with start. It's available here. Okay. Now non-static is required, so I'll create a branch here. I'm going to right click on the project, team, branch, switch to new branch. I'm going to create a master hyphen non-static page object. Click on finish. Static page object. I'll in the next class what I'll do is I'll just give you a rewind on this dependency injection. If you try to check it 2-3 times, you will get an idea about the dependency injection. See, the problem here is in the login step or in patient step, you cannot do extends keyword. Only when you do extends keyword, you can get some feature from the parent class, which is not possible. So what we try to do is the one object I needed for all the step definition, we will not control this object. So we will try to use dependency injection, getting the detail. So fine with that. Let me go to this branch. I'll just switch it this as a main branch. So that when you access my URL, it will try to show you this is the main project. If you want it as static, go for the master. Okay. Fine. So till this, we'll wind up the session. Remaining will continue tomorrow. BDD framework is done. Just one more time, I will try to explain the dependency injection in the next class. We will try to create 2-3 classes, unwanted classes, and try to detail and share the same object. If you see rectangle object, I try to share the same object. That's the definition of dependency injection. Okay. you can check the example of rectangle. That's the definition for dependency injection object. We try to share it between the classes.
Okay.
That's all for today's session. In your today's session is a very advanced concept where development team will be using in most of the scenario, or they will design it and give it you to use it. But since we are doing it from the scratch, we are doing it from intermediate to complex level only, higher level only. So I want you to practice on this level so that when you get into the project for maintenance, it will be easy. That's it. So this task, if you implement for maintenance, it will be easy, and performance wise, it will improve it. Okay, these are called best practice in Bdd framework. Okay. Without this also, you will be able to work whatever I completed today. Without that also, you can work with Bdd framework. This is not a Bdd framework. It's one of the concept used by Bdd framework for improve its feature. That's all for today's session. We'll connect tomorrow and then we'll complete the rest of the topic. Those topics, whichever the topics pending, Selenium, JavaScript, and all, I'll tell you. For sure, it will be
Balaji,
for you.
in
Yeah.
companies, we mostly use hybrid framework or BTD framework.
Nowadays, most of the people are shifting to Bdd framework for writing the acceptance testing. I told you, ATDD, that is used. Like injecting the testing scenarios in the testing level. Okay, the ATDD concept, modified form of BDD. Instead of BDD is understanding the requirement. ATDD is like writing the acceptance testing. That is what used nowadays in most of the industry. See, if most of the industry, what are service providers are there, right? Most of the industry product-based companies try to use the hybrid model because they will not it's their own product. Only if they have a complexity between explaining the requirement and all, then they will go for BTT. Most of the product-based company, mostly they will use hybrid. Service-based company, they have to touch with the stakeholders, understand their requirement. They have to fulfill their requirement and complete satisfactory is required. During that time, acceptance testing will be more involved.
Okay.
And I'll rewind this topic tomorrow also, dependency injection. Okay, then we'll start with the pending topic. As of now, most of the things are done, like additional topics which was extended, those are pending. For example, database handling in Java, and then enumerator, those concepts under pending, try catch, those things and all, I'll add it in the program. Tomorrow mostly will be done. That's all for today's session. If you have any doubts, let me know.
Balaji, there is load shedding at my area in the morning and evening. So,
okay.
If possible, we can schedule it from 1 to 5 or 12 to 5.
What time you will be available?
From 12 to 5.
12 to 5 you will be available.
Yes, after load shedding time is from 5 to 8, and in the morning it's I think 6:30 to 9:30, 9:30 or 10:30.
Okay, so timing, you just message me in WhatsApp. I'll update the team and I'll try to connect.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll be available full day tomorrow. I'll update the team. So right now, 12 to 5 is what the time you will be available, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'll update the team there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, if anyone is connecting, you can just put a message to the team also.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. See you. I'll close the session.